This is Jimmy Wigfield, the managing editor of the Alexander City Outlook, and I'm here today with new Alexander City Mayor Tommy Spraggins, who was elevated to the position today with the death of incumbent Mayor Jim Nabors. And Tommy, I'm sure this is not the way you would have wanted to have this job and have this responsibility. And tell us how you learned about Mayor Nabors' passing.
I will, Jimmy. Thank you. First, let me just say it is a sad day for Alexander City and our community, and it's certainly not the way that I'd like to serve as mayor, but I'm going to do my best. Going back to how I met Mayor Nabors, when I went to work at Russell Corporation, I grew up in Alexander City, but I went to work here in Alexander City for Russell Corporation in 1974. And the mayor, he worked, I think, in the accounting department, maybe as the controller at that time for Russell, and I met him then, and over the years I got to know him very well, and I actually worked for him directly. He was the chief financial officer of the company, and I was the chief information officer of the company. I worked for him for 10 years in that role, and then those days ended, and I ended up working at Russell Medical Center, and Mayor Nabors was the chairman of the board at the Russell Medical Center, and we saw each other frequently there. And in 2016, I'd heard a rumor that he might run for mayor, and that excited me because I know what a great person he is, and I knew in my mind that the city of Alexander City really needed to straighten out the financial issues that the city was having at that time, and he would be the right guy to make that happen. So I bumped into him in the hallway one day, and I told him about the rumor I'd heard, and I was encouraging him to run for mayor, and he said he would do that if I decided if I would go along and run for city council along with him. So I said I would. So that's how we both decided. I'm not saying that was the only conversation that took place, but that was one conversation. So he ran for the mayor and was elected overwhelmingly. And he has done a great job of straightening out the finances in our city. That's one of his legacies I think he'll leave. And also the new municipal complex. That whole idea and that work there was a lot of his, and financing that project and made it feasible for Alexander City, and it's really going to be a showplace. The other thing I would look at for the mayor, and one of his things I would say is a success of his that he'd be proud of, would be the Russell complex. It was like a war zone over there with all the buildings all torn up, and that has been cleared up. The mayor has led that initiative to buy those 28 acres of land, and land has been cleaned, and now it looks very good. So what we're going to do for the mayor, and he and I have very similar visions. I've always been in concert with the mayor on the things that we're doing in Alexander City. So our goal now is to put businesses on that property that we've acquired, those 28 acres, to bring better jobs to Alexander City, and to bring more commercial and industrial jobs, and a new industry, and new restaurants and retail people to Alexander City. And the mayor wanted that to happen, and we certainly do. So that's my goal, is to just further his ideas and his vision.
Do you feel like also maybe one of the legacies that he leaves is because he did get not only the finances sorted out and where you could wrap your head around what was going on,
right,
but also and all the department heads I talk to, they feel like he allows them to do their jobs and run their departments, but he puts them in good positions, gives them the tools they need. And have had one after the other say that his leadership trickled down to them, and that they feel like that'll be a lasting legacy going forward, is that the city probably is running better now than it has in quite some time.
Yes, Jimmy, that's his management style, and that's the way it was at Russell when I worked for him. Everybody that worked for Jim Nabors really liked his management style, and he trusted you until you gave him a reason not to trust you. But he really trusted you, and he gave you the resources you needed to do your job, and he just helps you make that happen.
How would you describe your management style? Is it in some ways different from his?
Maybe a little bit different. I do. I trust people also, and I want people to do their jobs. But I'm a little bit more hands-on probably than Mayor Nabors was. But I consider myself very similar in that style.
Mm-hmm. You had mentioned that for the first council meeting after his passing, that the city would honor him by placing a white ribbon in his chair. Can you talk a little bit more about the plans to honor the mayor?
We just had an idea this morning earlier, trying to think of things to honor Mayor Nabors. And one thing for sure, at the next council meeting, I would not sit in his chair, and we would put a white ribbon in that chair and to represent Mayor Nabors, and I'd sit in my normal chair. And we want to give the recognition to him because he's such a great leader in our community and certainly in our city.
And going forward, there's been some talk of perhaps naming the new municipal complex after Mayor Nabors. And do you have any thoughts on whether that's?
I like that. I like that idea, and it's already been mentioned by several people today. I think yourself included. But we talked about that this morning. I think it's a great idea. Either name the complex for the mayor, or the road going to the complex, or certainly that was his vision, and he worked hard to make that happen. I think it would be the right thing to do.
And finally, when someone of this stature passes, it oftentimes leaves a huge void. I don't think there's any question that will occur here, but because he had things so well organized, perhaps in a way, things will run more smoothly than perhaps they otherwise would have.
Oh, I think so. The mayor has got a great leadership team here, the people that worked for him. And they jump on board, and they're just updating me on if I want to know what's going on, they certainly will update me, but they take action. They're not waiting on someone to tell them what to do, that's for sure. And the mayor has set that management style in place. So I'm going to take advantage of that, Jimmy.
Do you have any particular initiatives that you want to, some goals you want to accomplish going forward in your first few months?
Well, it's an early part of this. Since this is day one, I really haven't thought through that. I think adding jobs and retail and industry to Alexander City. I love Alexander City. One thing the mayor, everyone would tell you, he loved Alexander. No one loved it more than Mayor Nabors did, and the people of Alexander City. So we want to continue that tradition and just show the love for Alexander City and try to help it progress and be a better town.
Well, thank you, Mayor Spraggins, and we wish you all the best going forward in the new job. It's a lot of responsibility, and as you've said earlier today, some big shoes to fill, and
Yes.
And I'm sure that the prayers and concern of the community are with you and the City Council.
Thank you, Jimmy. We really do need those prayers and concerns. Thank you.